night. We entering a place where hundreds of people disappeared, and where something may still be waiting inside. They closed this asylum 30 years ago. But every night, people still hear footsteps inside. What happens when someone explores the most haunted asylum in the world? Alone. The first thing Ethan noticed was the silence. Explorer, holding camera, entering haunted asylum entrance at night. Moonlight through broken windows. Thick fog. Cinematic horror scene. Not the normal kind of silence you hear in quiet places, but the heavy kind. The kind that presses against your ears and makes your heart beat louder. The abandoned asylum stood at the edge of the forest outside the small town of Blackridge. Everyone in town knew about the building, but no one ever talked about it for long, because every story about the place ended the same way, with someone disappearing. The building had once been known as Blackridge Asylum. Decades ago, it was a psychiatric hospital where hundreds of patients were treated. But in 1989, the facility was suddenly shut down after reports of mysterious deaths, missing patients, and strange experiments. The government sealed the building. Doctors vanished. Records disappeared. And the asylum was abandoned overnight. For 30 years, the building had been left alone, slowly rotting in the forest. Yet people in town still reported strange things, lights in the windows at night, footsteps echoing from empty halls, and sometimes screams. Ethan Parker didn't believe any of those stories. He was a university student studying documentary filmmaking, and he loved exploring mysterious places, abandoned buildings, haunted locations, forgotten towns. Those were the kinds of videos that attracted millions of views online. When Ethan heard about the asylum, he knew instantly it would make the perfect video. His friend Maya strongly disagreed. "You not seriously going there," she said when Ethan told her his plan. Ethan smiled confidently. "It's just an empty building," he replied. Maya shook her head slowly. "My uncle worked there before it closed," she said quietly. "He said some of the patients disappeared without explanation, and some rooms were sealed forever." Ethan laughed. "That's exactly the kind of story people want to hear." 3 nights later, Ethan drove his car down the old dirt road leading toward the forest. The headlights illuminated twisted trees and thick fog rolling across the ground. And then he saw it. The asylum. Even from a distance, the building looked disturbing. Its broken windows resembled empty eyes staring out from the darkness. The roof had partially collapsed, and vines covered the walls like creeping fingers. Ethan parked the car and grabbed his camera and flashlight. He turned on the recording. "This is Ethan Parker," he said confidently. "Tonight we're re-exploring one of the most haunted locations in the state, the abandoned Blackridge Asylum." The camera light reflected off the rusted iron gates as Ethan pushed them open. The metal screeched loudly. The sound echoed across the empty courtyard. Inside the fence, weeds had grown through the cracked pavement. Old hospital equipment was scattered everywhere. Rusted wheelchairs, broken stretchers, and pieces of medical machines left behind decades ago. The front entrance doors stood slightly open, as if someone had entered recently. Ethan pushed the doors wider. Dust filled the air immediately. The inside smelled old and damp, like a place forgotten by time. He stepped into the lobby. A reception desk stood in the center of the room, covered in old paperwork. Chairs were overturned, and a large clock hung on the wall above the entrance hallway. The clock had stopped at 3:17 a.m. Ethan pointed the camera toward it. "That's creepy," he said with a small laugh. His footsteps echoed loudly as he walked deeper into the building. Every hallway stretched into darkness. The beam of his flashlight revealed peeling paint, broken lights, and doors hanging loosely from their hinges. And then he heard it. A noise. Somewhere above him, a slow, dragging sound, like someone walking across the floor upstairs. Ethan froze. He held the flashlight toward the staircase. The sound stopped. "Hello," he called. No answer. Just silence. He shook his head. "Probably an animal," he muttered. But as he started climbing the stairs, he could shake the feeling that something had been watching him from the darkness above. The second floor looked worse than the first. Long hallways stretched endlessly into shadow. Patient rooms lined both sides of the corridor, their doors partially open. Ethan pushed one open with his foot. Inside was a small room with a rusted hospital bed and a metal chair bolted to the floor. Medical files were scattered across the ground. Ethan picked one up. The file read, "Patient 47, Samuel Crow." The notes inside were disturbing. Patient reports hearing voices in the walls. Patient claims the building speaks to him at night. Patient refuses to sleep. Ethan frowned. That's strange. Suddenly, bang. A door slammed somewhere down the hallway. Ethan jumped. His flashlight beam shook violently as he turned toward the sound. "Hello?" No answer. But now the air felt colder, and the hallway seemed darker than before. Ethan slowly walked toward the door that had slammed shut. Room 214. He pushed it open carefully. Inside the room was a cracked mirror hanging above a sink. Ethan stepped closer. Something was written across the mirror in dark red letters. "Dawn." "Look behind you," Ethan stared at the message. His heartbeat began racing. "That's not funny," he whispered. Slowly, very slowly. He turned around. Nothing was there. But when he turned back toward the door, he noticed something terrifying. The door had closed on its own. Ethan rushed to open it. The hallway outside looked different now. Longer. Much longer. The staircase he had used to come upstairs was gone. In its place was only more hallway. More doors. More darkness. Ethan's voice shook slightly. "Okay, that's not possible." He turned the camera toward the corridor. At the far end of the hallway stood a tall shadow. A thin figure that didn't move. Ethan pointed his flashlight toward it. The figure vanished instantly. His breathing grew faster. "I think it's time to leave." But when he turned around, the hallway behind him had also changed. Ethan realized something horrifying. The asylum was teat empty, and somehow it was trapping him inside. Desperate to find a way out, Ethan searched through different rooms. One office door caught his attention. The nameplate read, "Dr. Victor Hale." Inside the office were dozens of old tapes and documents. Ethan placed one of the tapes into an old recorder. A voice crackled through the speaker. This building is alive. It feeds on fear. Then screaming filled the recording. Ethan quickly stopped the tape. Another recording revealed something worse. Dr. Hale had been experimenting on patients, trying to open a doorway to another dimension, a place where darkness existed. But the experiment had gone wrong. The doorway had opened, and whatever came through had never left. Suddenly, Ethan heard footsteps in the hallway outside the office. Slow, heavy, getting closer. He ran. The deeper he went into the asylum, the stranger the building became. Hallways twisted in impossible directions. Rooms appeared where none had existed before. Whispers echoed through the walls. Stay. 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 Eventually, Ethan reached the basement. The air down there was freezing. Strange symbols covered the walls. In the center of the basement stood a massive steel door. It was slightly open. Darkness poured from inside like smoke. And from the darkness, something breathed. A deep, slow sound. Ethan backed away slowly. The whispers chased him through the corridors. Doors slammed shut around him. Shadows stretched across the walls like living things. Finally, he saw the front lobby again. The exit doors stood ahead, moonlight shining through the broken glass. Ethan sprinted toward them. Just as the shadows reached out toward him, he burst outside. The doors slammed shut behind him. The asylum returned to silence. Ethan never returned to that place again. But later, while reviewing his camera footage, he noticed something horrifying. In every single shot of the building, a figure was standing in one of the windows, watching him. And when Ethan paused the final frame, the figure slowly turned its head toward the camera, smiling.